1 FM. Drink Pepsi Black for max taste, no sugar. Pepsi Black time 18 hours or 6 p.m.
The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news at 6 comes to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken KFC. With the news at this time, I'm Dennis Chabrol. Good evening. The promotion of firefighters has been delayed due to, among other things, the need for racial diversity. Guyanese small and large-scale manufacturers can now sell globally on Starbucks Marketplace online. Police are searching for a man who allegedly killed his wife. In Brooklyn, more than 3 dozen persons have been injured in a smoke and gun attack on the subway. Regionally, Rihanna's pregnancy craving is? Guess what? We'll be telling you. A Trinidad and Tobago soldier has been charged with killing his daughter. And internationally, Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been fined by police for breaking lockdown rules in Downing Street in June 2020. The details of these and other stories in a moment.
After a hard day's work, a lime at the workplace would be great, and even greater and better with KFC, with a wide choice of finger-licking meals in a wide range of sizes. Could be a birthday celebration or promotion, or a lime for no reason at all. Any lime, anytime, anywhere is better and tastier with a delicious meal from any of KFC's 9 locations, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence, open now from 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
And now the news in detail. Home Affairs Minister Robeson Ben says the promotion of firefighters has been held up for several reasons. He confirms that these include the need to ensure that there is racial diversity in the fire service as well as other joint services. A number of persons have passed entrance examinations, but existing officers and other ranks of the Guyana Fire Service have not yet been promoted. The Home Affairs Minister says the promotion of the firefighters will be addressed shortly. No time frame has been given. He has on a number of occasions cited the need for a greater diversity in the joint services, whose members are mainly Afro-Guyanese. He says this will lead to confidence building. Guyanese registered and tax-compliant businesses can now sell their items globally on Starbucks Market online. Officials also say that sellers will be able to receive payments via a secure system from anywhere in the world. The platform was launched at the Marriott Hotel to coincide with National Small Business Week. Chief Executive Officer of Starbucks Marketplace, Althea Tony, says the e-commerce platform offers products that are in keeping with Guyana's standards.
We have a standard. I'm sure you're familiar with the Made in Guyana standard. That's a local quality standard that we require. We encourage, and we know that over the long term, it will be a requirement for companies that come on board to ensure that they already, and most of them are already compliant with these standards. Most of them are already exporters internationally. So they are already equipped and au fait with those requirements in terms of quality and international trade.
President of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Timothy Tucker, says efforts are ongoing to ensure businesses abide by recognized standards.
We have organizations within the country, the GNBS and the Guyana Food and Drug Analyst Department, that can help. For instance, the GCCI is working at the moment with 20 agro-processors to bring them up to GMP and HACCP certification and even get them certified. So it's important not for the marketplace as such to find ways to incorporate them by lowering the standards, but it's important for the local business community, small businesses, all businesses. If you have made a decision to get into business, you need to know that there's a standard in which to do so.
Sellers on Starbucks Marketplace will have to pay a percentage to the e-commerce platform. Guyana and Canada today signed a memorandum of understanding for the provision of goods and services. The accord was signed by Canada's Minister of International Trade, Export Promotion, Small Business and Economic Development, Mary Nigg, and Finance Minister Dr. Ashley Singh. The Memorandum of Understanding between the Canadian Commercial Corporation and the Guyana government is expected to focus on the procurement of Canadian goods and services. Finance Minister Singh explains why procurement is one of the key aspects in the memorandum.
If we agree that we're going to develop a project under the framework of this agreement using the services of the CCC, then the CCC would provide support through the project cycle. That is to say, provide support as needed in the case of the particular project, so provide support to Guyana in designing the project if that is needed, in doing the necessary procurement if that was needed for the purposes of the project, and in overseeing the management and execution of the project. But the procurement is only one part of the management of the entire project.
Finance Minister Dr. Ashley Singh. The Canadian Minister of International Trade, Export Promotion, Small Business and Economic Development says that under this accord, there is room for clean technology companies to enter Guyana's marketplace.
When I think about the companies that can come through this particular arrangement through the Canadian Commercial Corporation, we're talking about Canadian clean technology expertise that actually it is the clean tech expertise even into those traditional sectors like mining and agriculture and others that and in infrastructure that can be built upon, and it will also create the opportunities for those investments, whether they be in ICT or in clean tech or in agri-tech or all of the fast-growing sectors that both in Canada and in Guyana, we realize that our small and medium-sized businesses are really growing into these areas.
The Canadian Minister of International Trade, Export Promotion, Small Business and Economic Development, Mary Nigg. Police are in the manhunt for a man who allegedly killed his wife. Their son says his father escaped through a window of the house they live in at 15th Street Falls, East Coast Tamarara. She has been identified as Savitri Raj. The Guyana Police Force says the woman's bloodied body was found in the bedroom. Police say that his son heard his mother scream, and when he rushed upstairs, he saw his mother on the floor. Police have since issued a wanted bulletin for 56-year-old Vijay Mal Raj. Informed sources say that the man allegedly killed his wife one day before he was due to return to court on a charge of assaulting her with a bottle. Turning to news now from the region. Nationals of Trinidad and Tobago will have to pay more for gasoline and diesel. That's part of the rise in international oil prices due to the Russia-Ukraine war. More on this report from CNC3.
It's real unfair to people outside here. It's real unfair.
3 days have passed since the announcement, but people are still angry about what's coming on April 19th.
Nobody in Trinidad does nothing. Nobody placard, nobody block road. And the government free to do anything they want. And the people taking it.
And while most of them understand the big picture,
I know it's a global problem.
It's up to them to find that extra now. Take, for example, Radhika Ram Singh and her husband. With their 80-litre Hilux vehicle, it currently costs around $272 to fill up. In a little over a week, that will go to $312.
It's the people who have little children. They are the ones who are going to suffer in this country. They're already suffering and they're going to suffer more.
Her husband, the fisherman, said this will also change the way he goes out to sea.
And it's slow, you're going to be going because you're going to be making back nothing. You're going to time it and go like when you know you're holding to make $1, well, you go.
Over at the Red Nozzle, Ganpat Ramdulara is worried about those who became unemployed due to the pandemic.
And a lot of people lose their job, going to serial trouble. All the food prices and the groceries going to be up. It was up already and it's going to go up again.
Because those who use super gasoline in their sedans will now have to pay around $50 more to fill up. And spare thought for premium users. To fill a 50-litre tank will soon cost around $337. But but it seems many people already made the switch to super since the last increase.
Excuse, super or premium? Super. Everybody's super, eh?
We had to sacrifice somehow, and life had to go on. We got to sacrifice.
But sacrifice, once again, you see, in these times of regular increases at the registers and very soon again at the pumps, people are saying there's very little to sacrifice on again. It's why they say the cutbacks may now not come from the financial side, but more so on quality family time.
You can't take your children or your grandchildren as you well want now. You're going to limit where you go, how you go.
You only have to drive now unless you have to leave the house.
Casual runs would decrease. You actually, like, if we have to make a lime and make a joke and say we have to go there and lime, we say, well, now the new talk will be the diesel talk.
And with respect to switching to the soon tax-exempt hybrid vehicles, many of them say a new car is not on the agenda right now.
That is very expensive.
Akash Samaru, CNC3 News.
Rihanna is stunning for a new Vogue cover where she poses pregnant and dishes all things pregnancy, including the cravings she's been having. These days, she's feeling sweet and over salty, but her biggest craving is a fruity twist, tangerines with salt. The 34-year-old announced in January that they're expecting, and since then, Rihanna has rewritten the book on maternity wear. Rihanna is currently in her third trimester, but her due date and the baby's sex are unknown. Something she's ready to tell the world is how her mom reacted to meeting ASAP for the first time. It was Christmas 2020 when she brought ASAP home to Barbados. Rihanna added that the trip home was notable for another reason. It was an opportunity for Rocky to connect with the place his father grew up. A Trinidad and Tobago soldier has been charged with the killing of his 15-year-old daughter. Corporal David Alexander was arraigned Tuesday on a charge of manslaughter on April 5. The 36-year-old man was granted a Trinidad and Tobago equivalent of more than $58,000 bail. He was also ordered to surrender his passport. He'll return to court on May 10. He is accused of killing Alia while disciplining her. Following the incident, she was found unresponsive and was taken to a health facility where she was pronounced dead. In Brooklyn, New York, where thousands of Guyanese and other Caribbean people live, investigators have recovered a gun from the scene of a shooting that left almost 30 persons injured. We get the latest from CBS News.
A gun has reportedly been recovered at the scene of a mass shooting at a Brooklyn subway station.
That's right. At least 10 people were shot. 5 of them are in critical but stable condition. 10 other people were injured. The FBI has joined the NYPD's manhunt to track down the suspect. That person has been described as a black male, last seen wearing a green construction-type vest and a gray hooded sweatshirt. Officials say the man was a passenger on the subway train when he took a canister out of his bag and opened it. The train filled with smoke, and that is when the suspect opened fire.
At this time, there is no known motive for the shooting. This comes as New York City has faced an uptick in crime in its transit systems. New York Governor Kathy Hochul spoke about the devastation during a press conference earlier today.
This morning, ordinary New Yorkers woke up in anticipation of a relatively normal day. They left their homes en route to school, en route to their jobs, and to a normal day, as I mentioned. That sense of tranquility and normalness was disrupted, brutally disrupted, by an individual so cold-hearted and depraved of heart that they had no caring about the individuals that they assaulted as they simply went about their daily lives. This individual is still on the loose.
Joining us now from outside NYU Langone Hospital in Brooklyn is CBS News correspondent Meg Oliver. Hi, Meg. So the number of injured people has increased throughout the afternoon. What is the current breakdown right now? And do we have any word on the conditions of any of the victims?
Yeah, good afternoon, Tanya and Lana. And as you mentioned, the number of injured has increased throughout the day. Right now, the current count was about 29 people that were injured. We're outside NYU Langone in Brooklyn, where there are still about 11 patients inside. Their injuries range from everything from gunshots to smoke inhalation. As you remember, this happened more than 6 hours ago now, around 8:30 during the height of rush hour. And a smoke device was let off in the subway car, and then the gunman started shooting. They traveled for one full subway ride where they were finally able to escape, and we've heard reports of people running to their rescue with tourniquets and helping the wounded. Right now, we do know that some of the subways still have suspended their service in the area. The good news, though, is some of the schools have started to dismiss students. They have been in lockdown for most of the day. We have started to see some parents come and get their children and bring them home right now, but this is still a very active situation. The manhunt is underway. We know that the suspect is about 5'5", a black male, overweight. He was wearing a gas mask and a green vest on that subway when he started this attack this morning. We also know that Mayor Eric Adams told our local WCBS affiliate here in New York that the security cameras on board that subway station were not working. And so that is something that we have been waiting all day for, to have some sort of picture of this suspect who has been on the run now for more than 6 hours.
Yeah, such a disappointment that those cameras were not working, right?
Right, but hopefully with all the other cameras throughout New York City, law enforcement will be able to figure this out. Meg, you're not far from the scene of the shooting. I hear some horns honking behind you. How does the area look now? Are people back out on the streets?
There are more people out on the streets here outside the hospital, but over there, we were located at the 72nd precinct, which is between the two subway stations, the one where the attack happened and the one where people were finally able to escape to safety. And that place was completely crawling with law enforcement. We had the NYPD, we had FBI, we had multiple helicopters overhead. You couldn't go afoot without seeing law enforcement. Other than that, the residential area, the neighborhood, was very quiet. The storefronts were still open, but all of the schools were under lockdown and the subway stations had suspended service. So there was not a lot of activity other than law enforcement completely crawling around that area.
Right, Meg, you mentioned, of course, the schools within a mile radius of the subway station were in lockdown. Now we know school is out or soon to be out. So are the students being allowed to leave? How are they handling dismissal?
Yeah, Tanya, that just started happening within the last 20 minutes. Schools started to dismiss just about 20 minutes before 3 o'clock. And so they were letting students leave the building and they were letting the parents pick them up. When we were over closer to the scene, there were no parents outside waiting. We went and looked around an elementary school and a high school. It was very quiet. And I suspect that a lot of the parents felt that that was the safest place for their children to be. So they were waiting for further word. They found out that they were allowed to leave at dismissal. And so no, most of those families have simply gone home.
It's certainly a scary situation knowing that the gunman is still at large, right?
I wonder if, have you heard anything more, Meg, about whether law enforcement says that the subways are safe for people? I know that certain areas of the subways are still closed down, but there's a lot of people who are looking at taking the subways at the end of the day, even leaving school. What's the latest that you're hearing on that?
Well, I mean, as you can imagine, if you take mass transit in New York City, it's going to be a complete mess if your normal subway line is down. So I think at this point, Mayor Eric Adams is trying to reassure the public that it's still safe to go on mass transit. As you know, crime has been on the rise in New York City and other major cities throughout this pandemic. But we have seen a string of recent crime-related activity, during along mass transit and other areas of the city. So I think for the most part, New Yorkers have been cautious, but at the same time, they're trying to reassure the public that this was an isolated incident.
Absolutely. Well, Meg Oliver in Brooklyn, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And now we go to the BBC World Service for the latest bulletin of international news.
BBC News, hello, I'm Eileen McHugh. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson, his wife Carrie and his Finance Minister Rishi Sunak have apologised and paid police fines for attending a birthday party in Downing Street in breach of COVID rules in June 2020. Mr Johnson is the first British Prime Minister to receive a criminal sanction while in office, but he dismissed opposition demands for his resignation. Our political correspondent Rob Watson gauges reaction to this.
For many people, for millions of people, what they will remember the Prime Minister saying to them, look, this is immensely serious, everybody has to follow those rules. And so people didn't go and visit dying loved ones, they didn't go to funerals, they didn't attend weddings. Life was turned completely upside down. And I think for the vast majority of those people, and certainly the opinion polls suggest they haven't changed their minds, I mean, they just feel as though the Prime Minister and the government are taking them for fools.
The mayor of the besieged Ukrainian city of Mariupol, which has suffered the heaviest bombardment of the Russian invasion, estimates that 21,000 civilians there have been killed. Vadim Boychenko said it was impossible to collect bodies because of the ferocity of street fighting. Anna Foster is in Kiev.
At this stage, it is very, very difficult to verify any of these figures, but what we have seen is these pictures of absolute devastation, of some people estimate more than 75% of the city completely razed to the ground. We know the destruction there is huge, and we hear as well the stories and the testimonies of those people who have managed to flee, and they have talked about seeing numerous bodies in various places. I think when we eventually get to see what has happened in Mariupol, it would be, I think, reasonable for the number of people who've died to be very high.
Ukraine's security service says it's arrested a fugitive pro-Russian politician. Viktor Medvedchuk had been under house arrest on suspicion of treason, but went on the run days after the Russian invasion. Mr Medvedchuk, who says Vladimir Putin is godfather to his daughter, denies wrongdoing. Police in New York are searching for a man who shot 10 people at a Brooklyn subway station during the morning rush hour. The city's police commissioner told reporters the suspect had opened a gas canister, filling a train with smoke before shooting commuters on the platform. None of the victims suffered life-threatening injuries. The governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, called for an end to such incidents.
The people of the entire state of New York stand with the people of this city, this community, and we say no more. No more mass shootings. No more disrupting lives. No more creating heartbreak for people just trying to live their lives as normal New Yorkers. It has to end, and it ends now.
You're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. Scientists in the United States have warned about the possibility of a new outbreak of the mosquito-borne virus Zika. Researchers from the Institute for Immunology at La Jolla say a single mutation of the virus would have the potential to trigger a rapidly spreading variant. Recent infection studies suggest variants may spread even in countries which have built up immunity from previous outbreaks. The International High Representative in Bosnia and Herzegovina has made a rare intervention in the country's politics, using his powers to suspend a controversial law passed by one of Bosnia's two constituent parts, the Republika Srpska. This would have allowed it to claim or sell state property. Christian Smit said it violated Bosnia's constitution and the Dayton Peace Agreement he is charged with implementing. The families of dozens of passengers abducted by gunmen in Nigeria during an attack on a train more than 2 weeks ago say they are not satisfied with the authorities' rescue efforts. Armed men ambushed it after blowing up the track. The BBC's Chris Iwoka reports from the capital Abuja.
Addressing a press conference in the northern city of Kaduna, a group of relatives of the victims said 2 weeks after the kidnapping, they've not heard much from the authorities on what is being done to rescue the captives. A leader of the group of families told journalists that they have been having sleepless nights since the abductions of their loved ones. One man whose brother is among the hostages told the BBC that the past 2 weeks have been agonizing. The Nigerian authorities say they are trying to rescue the abducted passengers without giving details.
The Iranian authorities have sent a prominent human rights activist and a photojournalist back to prison, having briefly allowed them out for health reasons. The family of Narges Mohammadi said security officers raided her home in Tehran to arrest both her and Alia Motalebzadeh. They have reportedly been transferred to Karchak Women's Prison. BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
After a hard day's work, delicious comfort food is all we crave for. There at KFC, they've got you covered with a wide choice of delicious, finger-licking good meals from any of their 9 locations, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence. And there are 6 drive-through locations for your convenience. Their 11 herbs and spices are sure to blow those post-work vibes away every time. It's the perfect way to end a hard day. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
Now to end the news, a recap of the highlights. Promotion of firefighters has been delayed due to, among other things, the need for racial diversity. Guyanese small and large-scale manufacturers can now sell globally on Starbucks Marketplace online. Police are searching for a man who allegedly killed his wife. In Brooklyn, more than 36 persons have been injured in a smoke and gun attack on the subway. Regionally, what's Rihanna's pregnancy craving? A Trinidad and Tobago soldier has been charged with killing his daughter. And internationally, Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been fined by police for breaking lockdown rules in Downing Street in June 2020. That's the end of the news, which came to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio Newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.